Welcome, I'm Asuma Katauka and you are watching NewsX World. Let's take a look at the headlines of this hour. As SCO summit has commenced in full fervor, the leaders at the summit in Tianjin have discussed war, tariffs, and setting a new world order. At the summit, Chinese President Xi has pledged $280 million into grants to SCO member states this year. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has told Russian President Vladimir Putin that Ankara is working for a fair and lasting peace in Ukraine, with talks in Istanbul contributing to the effort on the sidelines of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization summit in China. The International Associations of Genocide Scholars, with 500 members, have passed a resolution declaring that Israel's policies and actions in Gaza meet the legal definition of genocide under the 1948 UN Convention. This marks the strongest formal academic condemnation yet of Israel's campaign in Gaza. Unification Church leader in South Korea has stated that she directed the group to bribe former First Lady Kim Kyung-hee or politician Kwon Song-dong, as South Korea faces a widening criminal probe into former President Yoon Suk-yeol and his wife. Former First Lady Kim was indicted on Friday she's accused of accepting $57,631 in bribe. South Korea has suspended its military radio to North Korea for the first time in 15 years as part of efforts to ease tensions with Pyongyang. This is according to Seoul's defense ministry. The broadcast, which includes news about the North's regime, South Korean economic development, and K-pop, had been a key tool of psychological warfare. The death toll from a powerful earthquake in eastern Afghanistan has risen to over 800 people now, with most casualties in Kunar province, according to Taliban's government spokesperson Zabihullah Mujahid. He has also added that about 2,500 people have been injured. A helicopter with 2 crew members and 6 passengers on board went missing in south of Indonesia, and a search operation is underway. The local rescue agency has said that the aircraft disappeared in the area of Mantivi, according to the local rescue agency. A Pakistani military helicopter has crashed in the northern Gilgit-Baltistan region, killing 4 personnel, including 2 pilots, after developing a technical fault. According to a Pakistani military official, the aircraft has gone down after nearly while flying from Gilgit to Chilas in the strategic mountainous area. As we continue our coverage for the SCO summit, my colleague and senior executive editor Megha Sharma is in Tianjin, bringing us the latest from the ground. She has spoken to Su Yu-ting of CGTN on the summit. Let's listen in.
What are your expectations of the upcoming SCO summit, and what are the major issues and topics that India are most interested in?
Yes, it is in many ways a historic SCO summit that is taking place here in China, in Tianjin, 2025. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is going to be attending this summit. And not just that, I think the SCO summit, the grouping, the countries are expanding as well. There are more and more countries that are becoming part of the SCO, which reflects time and age in which we live, where there is a requirement for more and more countries with sensibilities and thought processes and ideas that are in convergence with other countries, example, the existing SCO members, whether it is India or China, Russia, Pakistan, Iran, they all converging together, coming together, wanting to be part of the summit, wanting to be part of a grouping that is for the greater good, for the interests of each other's alignments, economic as well as political and strategic. All right, I also have a question for you. What do you think is the future of the India-China relationship between the two leaders?
China and India are very ancient civilizations, and the two ancient civilizations has a long history of friendship over the past few years. And we know that this year is very significant for the bilateral ties because this year marks the 75th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between China and India. And we've seen that Foreign Minister Wang Yi of China have visited India just a couple of weeks ago, and he just met with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi in New Delhi. And I just, broadcasting that a very significant event when I was on there in the Beijing studio. And I noticed that one of the signals sent out by the two leaders is that China and India are partners, not rivals. So it is a very clear signal, and that is a turning point for the improvement and development of bilateral relations. And the two sides have made great efforts in boosting bilateral cooperation, not only in the economy, energy, and that trade, people-to-people exchanges and culture.
The joint declaration, the key outcomes of the SCO summit, which is something that is anticipated when the leaders convened. There are a lot of discussions and talks happened. What do you think could be the key outcomes of the SCO summit taking place here today?
Yes, the most important thing is that President Xi Jinping will deliver a keynote speech during the highest level summit here in Tianjin. And lots of many other countries within the big SCO family will also gathering together. And one of the highlights is that this organization this year will just release a very important declaration. It's called the Tianjin Declaration. And that the other highlights is that we will also forge a blueprint for the future development. That is the strategic development plan for the next 10 years towards 2035. And we believe that China will just set new vision and propositions in carrying forward the Shanghai spirit. Now, the world is still overshadowed by power politics and unilateralism. What role do you think that SCO will play in safeguarding security in the region and also promoting multilateralism?
It's interesting you mentioned about unilateralism, and in the face of unilateralism, there is this multilateralism that has emerged. We've seen one example of unilateralism coming from the tariffs that have been imposed on, I think, almost all the countries across the globe, which are reeling under this pressure. SCO becomes that alternative voice, along with BRICS, to bring the countries within the global south to come together and support each other and cooperate with each other in building supply chains, in being able to build economic, trade, bilateral and diplomatic relations with each other, in further burgeoning your people-to-people connect, cultural connect, which is really important. I think this is exactly what SCO is, intent of building a grouping like this has been, and it has been extremely successful. And the fact that there are more and more countries who are vying for a place within the SCO makes it even more of a success story. The foundation of the SCO summit was to ensure regional security for its grouping members. And leaders from all these countries, China, Russia, India, Iran, Central Asian countries, they all have come together in their own way to cooperate with each other, to share intelligence, to support each other by way of safeguarding, to ensure borders are safeguarded, to ensure cross-border terrorism does not take place, to ensure that terror financing is reduced to the minimum, completely removed, completely done away with.
At the SCO Plus summit today, Chinese President Xi Jinping and Russian President Vladimir Putin pushed their vision for a new global security and economic order that prioritizes the global south. Xi, hosting more than 20 leaders of non-Western countries in the northern Chinese port city of Tianjin, has said that the SCO must promote the democratization of the international relations and enhance the representation of developing countries. He stressed that the need to take a clear stand against hegemonism and power politics. He also urged regional leaders to oppose what he called the Cold War mentality. Let's listen in to what the Chinese president has said.
80年后，和平发展合作共赢的时代潮流没有变，但冷战思维、霸权主义、保护主义阴霾不散，新威胁、新挑战有增无减，世界进入新的动荡变革期，全球治理走到新的十字路口。
Additionally, President Putin has said that the SCO had revived genuine multilateralism. For this discussion, we are joined by Dr. Bonnie Yushi Liao. She's an assistant professor of diplomacy and international relations at Tamkang University in Taiwan. And our other guest, Mark Sutherland, he's a geopolitical analyst, joins us live from London. And also Alison Mutler, she's a former AP bureau chief in Romania, joins us live from Bucharest. Thank you to all our guests for joining us today. My first question is to Professor Bonnie. Professor Bonnie, the 2025 SCO Summit in Tianjin has emphasized a vision for a multipolar world with leaders like Xi Jinping and President Vladimir Putin advocating for a shift away from Western dominance. How do you perceive Taiwan's strategic positioning within this evolving global order?
Okay. When Beijing and Moscow sell multipolarity, they're normalizing an authoritarian multipolarity. Many pose fewer guardrails, while Taiwan's answer is a rules-based, partner-rich strategy. At home, we pursue deterrence by denial with mobile resilience and asymmetric forces. And abroad, we build coalitions of capability, maritime domain awareness, and the Coast Guard interoperability with the US, Japan, Australia, and the Philippines. Economic resilience through supply chain de-risking and common tech standards with Europe and Indo-Pacific partners. We also call out coercion and defend one predictable rulebook. So we choose rules, resilience, and real partners. Multipolars, yes. Multi-standards, no.
And with that, I would like to go to Alison. Alison, with China and Russia playing prominent roles in the SCO, how is the balance of power in Central and South Asia likely to change, according to you?
Well, I think that's something that China, particularly, they want to show that they are the next world leaders after probably, whether they say it outright or not, even they're presenting it as a multi-polar reality. And India, these are two very, very powerful countries. India is a democracy. China is not a democracy, but they have important trade. It was Narendra Modi's first visit to China since 2018, so because of the problems with the border clashes, so that's quite important. So I think they're trying to create a sort of a new power base in Asia, but I think it goes beyond Central Asia. I mean, these are the big economies, these are the big countries in the region, but I think they want to make a global footprint, to be an alternative to Donald Trump and the West, which is fractured. It's very brittle unity in the West. There's a lot of problems since the Trump administration. The world order has changed in the West, and obviously China and India and Russia and the other countries. It is a bit odd that India is it's a democratic country, but it also is a very pragmatic country, that they would want to join this. So it's not just about Asia here. I think it's about creating, they say, a multipolar world, but it seems to me it's about, China asserting its dominance on the global stage. And again, let's not forget, this group also includes Belarus, which is actually part of Europe. But anyway, these organizations, so if you look at the Eurovision Song Contest, Israel takes part in that. So these organizations aren't always completely geographically defined. They're often, in the case of Belarus, it's probably something that Russia wanted Belarus to join for ideological and cultural reasons. So I think it's more about how the power shifts from Washington to the east. This is the aim anyway. Whether it will go beyond talks and optics is another matter, and that will play out in the coming years, or the coming months, and the coming years. But I think it's trying to shift the power away from Washington because of Donald Trump's tariffs, but also the new sort of world order, because of the way his administration, the way he does politics, is totally different from what happened in the past in Washington. So I think it's more a shift towards Asia, not just how it's seen within Asia.
Yes, with that in mind, building on that, I would like to bring Mark in this discussion. Mark, what do you think? Do you agree with Alison that China and Russia are, while they are playing prominent roles in the SCO to balance this power, will they change the balance in power, and do they have any strategic or underlying motives in hosting this kind of hosting SCO and being present in SCO? Mark, I would like to come to you for my next question. Mark, what do you think? Do you think that with now China and Russia playing prominent roles in the SCO, do you think what do you think is their motive, and how is the balance of power in Central and South Asia likely to change according to you?
Suma, good to be with you again. I think comments following from your great guests are talking about the fact that Russia, that the whole SCO would like to expand their influence from the Eurasia arena. They would like to be more on the world stage, to challenge the G7, to challenge NATO. What is very interesting is, Turkey is a member of NATO. They want to expand that. I'm also trying to cope with the sentence of democracy and working with democracies in China in the same sentence, which is a bit of a new one on me, as Alison pointed out. China is not a democracy, as the concerns would be of Taiwan. The fact that China has been building these atolls around Taiwan, doing naval exercises, etc. That is all within that mix as well. You quite rightly talk about the tariff wars. We go back to the fact that Donald Trump wants to, the 30+ trillion debt that America is in, even though he's just reported the fact they've got 10 trillions of investment to go back into America. They're wanting to get the investment back. They're wanting to get the manufacturing back. As I was talking about yesterday, that since we go back in history of Kissinger and Nixon then opening up those relationships with China, and then by 1982, the thousands of factory jobs that had gone over to China as they viewed that technocracy that it's become as the center of the cheap labor market within the world to supply the rest of the world goods. So the SCO, with all the 24, 25 countries there, the conversations between India, China, other people have alluded to the fact that for a trilateral between Russia, India, and China, the fact that the tariffs, again, has emphasized the fact they've all had to think individually in regard to looking after their own countries. But also, we have to look at the tie-ups here and how they are supporting each other. And as Suma in the report beforehand, where it's about the BRICS nations as well, this is a huge relationship building of as people would say, soft power and trade. Yes. Because yes, it wants that multipolar world. It doesn't want the hegemony of America, and it's challenging that, Asuma.
Yeah, thank you very much to all our guests for joining us and sharing that insight. Please stay with us as we stay on this topic now. The declaration signed in Tianjin advocates for increased energy cooperation with SCO dialogue partners. It also emphasizes on expanding exchanges and cooperation with the United Nations and its structures as a priority area of SCO international relations. The declaration notes an initiative to develop an agreement on trade facilitation within the SCO and also highlights a proposal to prepare and sign an agreement on confidence-building measures in the military sphere. Member states have also expressed opposition to unilateral coercive measures and commit to continuing joint efforts to prevent the spread of radical ideologies, religious intolerance, aggressive nationalism, and ethnic discrimination. Reportedly, the declaration also reaffirms the commitment to continued joint actions to strengthen counterterrorism activities. Now we go back to our guest discussions with Dr. Bonnie Yushi Liao and Mark Sutherland, as well as Alison Mutler. First, I would like to go to Dr. Bonnie. Dr. Bonnie, with China and Russia playing prominent roles in the SCO, how is the balance of power in Central Asia and South Asia likely to change after you heard our other guests, Alison and Mark's answers? What do you think?
I would say expect a division of labor. China's economic gravity alongside Russia's residual security role cooperative, but hardly seamless. Central Asian states will keep multi-vector diplomacy, balancing resources while guarding autonomy. In South Asia, I think India engages the SCO yet avoids an anti-West alignment. Others hedge. The optics grow, but collective action lags due to sanction risk, debt concerns, and clashing interests. For Taiwan, that creates a window to help diversify supply chains, secure critical mineral links, build cyber capacity, and train talent via scholarships and standards cooperation. So keep projects modest and lawful and transparent. Precision beats posture. So we bring the working parts that make partners safer and economy steadier.
Thank you very much for sharing that. Now we look at the upcoming news. At the SCO Plus expanded meeting today, the afternoon, Russian President Vladimir Putin has said that more than 10 new applications from various countries to the SCO as observers or dialogue partners is being currently reviewed. President Putin also stressed that an increasing number of countries are seeking open and equal dialogue with the SCO. He also congratulated Laotian president on his country being granted partner status by a unanimous decision of the Council of Heads of State. Now we go back to our guest discussion. I would like to go to Mark. Mark, how do you see Laos now added to this bloc, and what do you think they bring to the table?
Ever expanding, isn't it? Because people, again, as was just said by a wonderful guest from Taiwan, it is about, with all these countries, they are either building up their strategic alliance in regard to defense, in regard to their own security, but also then seeing that there is an economic markets to then move into. So for all of those countries, when people would turn around and say, well, if you just had a one country hegemony, if the whole hegemony is then being built around America, and then this is an opportunity, as I say again, without sounding repeating myself, this is an opportunity to then challenge that from the bipolar world to a multipolar world. The other thing is there was a constant discussion in regard to nationalism and countries then standing on their own with their own culture, their own language, etc. But it does mean that we also then have to look around, who can we trade with? And that is what I believe is going on in that area. It's very interesting, as Putin has said, there are 10 other countries that want to join. We remember Alaska. We remember recently the conversation he then had in President Trump in regard to Ukraine and Russia. They are then looking at all the other countries that they can build alliances with, because they are going to need resources, which they have been taking in regard to the war that they were fighting in Ukraine, which frankly we all want to end as soon as possible and as peacefully as possible. It's about alliances to me, Asuma. That is what I think is going on here. But many countries, they turn around and say, well, living in peace, being able to trade, bring up people's standard of living, then that's a good thing if they feel they're going to be with other countries to protect that and bring that forward. Asuma.
Thank you for sharing that, Mark. Now we move on to our next story. Reportedly, Russian forces have taken control of the village of Kamyshevaca in the Donetsk People's Republic, according to Igor Kimakovsky, an advisor to the Donetsk People's Republic head. Kimakovsky has stated that securing Kamyshevaca has allowed forces to strengthen the front line along the border with the Dnipropetrovsk region. He added that nearly the entire western border area of the DRP is now under Russian control. The Russian Defense Ministry had earlier announced that forces had taken control of Kamyshevaca. Now I would like to go to Alison first for this discussion. Alison, since we see like almost every day we see different reports coming in from Russia as well as Ukraine about they have taken this land and they have taken another land. How are we supposed to trust these reports, and what do you think? What is this strategy behind claiming lands and then reclaiming and putting it out in the media?
Reading a report takes me back to the 1990s when we had the conflict in Bosnia and in Kosovo. And, you know, I work for the Associated Press and we report that so-and-so village was taken. And obviously to your average reader in Atlanta or you're in New Delhi or wherever else, that meant absolutely nothing. In fact, outside, except for people who lived in that country, and even they might not have heard of the village. So it's very bitty reporting. It's like tiny bits of this is taken, this is taken. What is the point of it? It's because one of the main points of war is to gain a psychological advantage. And Russia is extremely good at that. You know, Ukraine's putting up a brilliant fight, and they're obviously very courageous. Whether some people are anti-Ukraine, but they're incredibly courageous people. I mean, I live in Romania, and some of my friends said, "Oh, the Russians would have taken Romania in 2 days." You know, the Ukrainians have put up an incredible fight. It's true, there's been a lot of weapons given to them. So. I think on both sides, they have every interest to make claims to have taken a village, to have taken a road, to have taken a strategic center or some institute or et cetera, et cetera. It's also to give morale to their own country. Russia is, you know, you really can't report anything apart from the Kremlin line, except for perhaps some of the economic newspapers. And there are Russian newspapers, very good, very brave Russian newspapers, but they're based outside Moscow. Sorry, outside Russia. So I think, you know, these tiny little incremental gains, which really mean nothing to not a wider international audience, I think they're psychological. And it's to say, listen, guys, we are winning, we're doing something, you know, and to create the idea that, you know, Russia is gaining land or Ukraine is fighting back. So my view is, even if they are correct, and that's the other thing, who is verifying them? How many, you know, journalists are there on the ground, you know, being able to fact check? But obviously, as journalists, when I was working at the AP, now you take what the authorities say, and you obviously try and see if there are any alternative sources or different, you know, reliable reporting. But I see it more for psychological reasons that they talk about. We gained this village, we got this road, we stopped this, you know, column of tanks, etc.
Thank you very much. With that, we end this discussion. Thank you to all our guests, Dr. Bonnie Yushi Liao and Mark Sutherland, as well as Alison Mutler, for joining us today and sharing your insight throughout this news. Thank you very much. Now we move on to Asia as Afghanistan reels in from the aftermath of today's earthquake. A spokesperson for the Taliban government has stated that the death toll now stands over 800 people and injured at least 2,800 in eastern Afghanistan. Rescue operations are underway to find missing people under the destruction and rubble caused by the strong tremors. As per USGS, the earthquake of magnitude 6.3 struck near Jalalabad, Nangarhar province. After the 6.3 magnitude tremor, a 4.7 magnitude earthquake occurred at a depth of around 140 kilometers, not far from the epicenter of the initial tremor. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi condoled the loss of lives and assured all possible humanitarian aid and relief to those affected. Let's listen into what Afghan civilians have said.
د نورګل ولسوالي ده غازیاباد کلی دی دا ټول ړنګ شوی دی د شپې 12 بجې زلزله وشوله ماشومان دلته ایسار دي غټان ایسار دي سپینګیري ایسار دي په خبره پوه شولې زمونږ ضرورت دی ورته کسانو ته زمونږ ضرورت دی مرستو ته زمونږ ضرورت دی چې دلته موږ سره مرسته وکړي موږ لرې شي موږ سره کومک وکړي خبره پوه شولې زمونږ واړه ایسار دي زنانه ایسار دي سپینګیري ایسار دي ماشومان ایسار دي خبره پوه شو مړي ایسار دي زمونږ اوس دونه څوک نشته چې دا موږ سره 15% کورونه تخریب شوي دي شهیدان او زخمیان ډیر لرو په هر کور کې 15 نفر 10 نفر زخمیان شوي دي او کوم مسلمانان یې زمونږ خبره اخیستلی شي د الله د رضا لپاره دې موږ سره کومک وکړي چې زموږ شهیدان او زمونږ دا کورونه تخریب شوي دي او چې هره مرسته موږ سره د وسې کېږي بس الله پاک.
Well, this is all we have time for, but we will continue the special coverage of the SCO summit. Stay tuned.